嗨，你今天好吗？Welcome to Journey by Chinese. I'm your host and Chinese coach, I-Chiao. I share Chinese language knowledge and stories of people who are learning languages, especially Chinese. Today we have Chelsea D. Li Jingjing. She's a Filipino Chinese American now living in LA, working as a researcher in biomedical company. She's a passionate Chinese language learner, reached to a level about HSK 5 to 6, and have a website, languagehungry.com, to share her unique learning resources. Let's let her say hi to you guys.
大家好，是 Chelsea or 李晶晶，我的中文名字。So yeah, like she said, I'm just a language learner, on the side. Like I work as because my degree is biology, so I just work at a biomedical company. But my free time, I like to learn languages, and
Yeah.
mostly my focus is Chinese right now.
Yeah, you could see Jing Jing she shared lots of her learning experiences or like even share some books she think it's very beneficial to her to the audience. And even she has a website to record all her this learning journey. So like my first question to you is like what's your background of growing up related to a Chinese language and culture?
So I lived in the Philippines. So I grew up in the Philippines, but my dad is Chinese, 他是 Philippine Huaran, but
Ah.
he also grew up in the Philippines and he was also born in the Philippines. So mostly at home, we spoke Tagalog and English because my mom doesn't understand Chinese. And when my dad speaks to my grandparents and his family, it's not Mandarin. They use like I guess it's in the from the Fujian province. It's Minahua. So they don't really speak Mandarin. So I learned um, Mandarin mostly on my own. And then when I was young, my parents made me go to Chinese school, but I didn't really pay attention that much.
Yeah. It's like a Sunday Chinese schools, like weekend ones.
Yeah, and I think my elementary school had a program, but
Hmm.
we were kids and didn't care that much.
Yeah, I see. So you grew up with a background and then with like your dad and then also your grandparents like also go speak Mingnanhua and
Hmm.
then but not a lot Mandarin. But you went to the Mandarin schools, right?
Yeah.
But then what's your Chinese language learning journey like since June 2020? What's shift your mind to, start to learn this language more like engaging learning?
I started, well, initially I thought like after I graduated college, I had more free time. So I was like, oh, I've always wanted to get better at Chinese, like,
Yeah.
but I never like, took a class or whatever. So around last year, I started watching more shows, so dramas, and I really like this dance show in China called 这就是街舞. It's the
Ah.
English title is Street Dance of China, and
Uh-huh.
I started getting to know a lot of music artists and um, like TV shows. So I started learning more and more on my own, but I didn't know what my Chinese level was. So I just went online to search like how to find your Chinese level because I didn't know what book
Oh.
to get or how to start. So I saw,
Uh-huh.
I read about the HSK
Yeah.
exams. So I took a practice test, and I think at that time I passed HSK 4.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, oh, I should start at 4 and 5 and see how it goes. And then
Mm.
I just kept like I bought my own textbooks and
Yeah.
studied by myself, I guess.
Yeah, then which means like even you didn't like really interest or pay attention before 2020, but like since you take the mock test and then reach to HSK4, which means like those ability is still there, you know?
Well, yeah, I think watching a lot of shows
Mm.
helped a lot because I honestly like after I moved to the USA, I didn't practice Chinese at all.
I
Like,
see.
because my I didn't use it in school. My parents
Mhm.
never used it at home. So,
Mhm.
but watching a lot of shows and subtitles, it helped me it comes back, like the knowledge came back,
Ah,
and things that I didn't know before I was paying attention to. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that's how you said it that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really a great resources like watching the grandmas, see their interactions back and forth, and then also with the Chinese subtitles, right?
Yeah. And my dad actually commented because I told him I was learning, and then he does know a little bit of Mandarin, so he tried to talk to me, and then he said, "Your Chinese was a lot better than you ever was like being in school." because
Oh.
because I think I paid attention watching shows, but I
Mhm.
didn't pay attention in school. So
And
he was like, I'm surprised. He was really surprised.
yeah, and then your interest is one of your interests is traveling, right? So like you also make lots of friends
Oh
speaking
yeah. I
Chinese.
last year I when I was trying to figure out how to learn the best, I was like, people were saying like make friends, use app like Hello Talk and stuff. So I met one friend there, and then I realized we watched the same show, so we added each other on WeChat, so we started talking a lot. And then also a Facebook group, I think it was like subtle Asian languages or something like that. But
Mhm.
it's like a bunch of like, I don't know, maybe like Asian Americans who wanted to learn their own languages, I guess,
Yeah.
because they're not like they can't communicate that well in their like families languages
Hmm.
because they're like American. So I met like a person from Taiwan who wants to learn English.
Yeah.
So we've been talking for like more than a year now. So I would help him with English and he would help me in Chinese too.
Hmm. That's good. Like building like a friendship. It's like you want to communicate like in this community with your friends and then in their language and then also know their culture, right? It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And after when the pandemic ends, we invited each other to visit each other. So
Yeah.
hopefully I told them that my Chinese would be good enough by the time I visit Taiwan, or with my other friend, she's in Shanghai. So I want to visit there too.
Yeah, yeah. I think I hopefully next year, 2022, we'll be able to travel more freely. Yeah, at this moment, like in Taiwan, you still need like about 14 days quarantine and then like 7 days of like taking care of your health, not going to a public. So total is like 3 weeks. Even you land there. Yeah. So what motivate you like to start blogging and like to share all this like different useful learning resources?
Um, well, I really already like to journal and write a
Mhm.
diary. So to track my progress, I thought it was easier to just make an Instagram account and like a blog. And
Uh-huh.
I thought it would be fun to learn how to design a website because I've never done it before. So it's kind of nice. So
Mm.
it's just easier and convenient to track my
Mm.
learning progress, I guess.
Mm. So like compared to writing it down, like
Yeah,
typing it out and then to track would be easier for you,
yeah,
right? Okay. And then it's also the amazing thing, it's also benefit to lots of people. Like if you guys are interested, you should check her website, language.com, languagehungry.com. Like she shared different tools, like for example, if you wanna like change your phone to the language you are using, no matter it's traditional Chinese or a simplified one, like she share all like details and then like which icon means which meaning. It's very amazing. Yeah. And then so what's your suggestion if people wanna improve their Chinese reading ability? Or
Um, I guess if you're new, just start with like really small things.
yeah.
Well, like it was too hard for me to read novels, so I started reading like children's book,
Uh-huh.
And or if you don't want like super like content that's like super childish, I guess you could try manga or manhwa, like
Ah,
comics. So it's like easier. Oh, it's like blurry, but
ah.
but
So how
it's
did you,
strips, comic strips.
yeah, but how did you get all these books? Like, did you explore by yourself or like what's some website you think is very helpful for people?
For books, I got it from mostly AliExpress.
Uh,
Uh, it's ALI Express or like Taobao.
Taobao, uh-huh.
Yeah, and for textbooks, I got it from either Amazon or Purple Culture. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Uh, I if it's so you mentioned about like if people, I think it depends on people's different learning strategies or like the ways. So firstly you mentioned about the story books, right? The for the kids. And then it just come to me like yesterday I was just browsing the podcast. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a podcast called 从前从前, long time ago, and then it's a trend like in Taiwan, like people are parents are playing it for the kids like before sleeping, like they tell different stories. And then so yeah, if you are like any of you are like the learners who like think, oh, storybooks, it's a good resources, then definitely should start with it because it's more easily to understand as a beginner Chinese language level.
Yeah, and if your focus is reading, then reading your textbook, and on top of that, the storybooks would help a lot. And if you
Mm.
want to listen a lot or like be better at listening, what I did was, so I always had to drive to work for around an hour. So I do listen to podcasts too. So
Yeah.
podcasts and TV shows help with like listening.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like using all different times to practicing different things, different abilities, right? Like you mentioned, practice the listening when you're driving, and then practice reading, right? When reading all these different books. That's good. So, what's your since I saw on your blogs there's a traditional and there's a simplified version characters. What's your experiences of learning traditional and simplified characters like almost at the same time?
Well, when I was young, when I first learned traditional, because I think in the Philippines there was a lot of Taiwanese teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when I started studying HSK by myself, a lot of the textbooks were all simplified. But when I started reading it, it wasn't that hard, like to figure out what's what, because you're reading it in a sentence out of context. So if the word looks a little bit different, or even
Mm-hmm.
if it looks different, like you could understand what it is.
Mm. I think the point here is like not struggling to just pay attention to character or like vocabulary, but you
Mhm.
need to like look it up like as a whole
Yeah,
sentences or like a paragraph,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because all it means to you, like when we are reading the
yeah,
Chinese, it's like you want to figure out what's that sentences mean, what's that paragraph means,
yeah,
not just single character or vocabulary.
yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So today, thank you so much, Chelsea, for sharing your learning experiences with us. So we will have a free giveaway for every of you who you are listening on this episode. We have 35 survival phrases for your journey, Chinese learning journey. So if you follow both of our accounts, I-Chiao.hong, ICHIAO.HUNG, and Language Hungry, LANGUAGEHUNGRY, and tag two friends, who might benefit from this episode or who might be interested on Chinese learning, and then we will send the file out for every of you. Thank you. 谢谢 Chelsea.
Okay.